Call to order. Welcome to the Strabane Township Board of Supervisors, third non-legislative meeting for the term. And from my understanding, some folks don't understand what that non-legislative meeting is all about. Our township manager will explain it here shortly. Roll call. We have 4 supervisors present this morning. Mr. Lukatich is absent today. We have our township manager, our township solicitor, we have our township engineer, township fire chief, our township intern, and I think we've covered everything. And I want to thank you for attending the meeting this morning, taking time to do that. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start public comments, I would ask our township manager, Mr. Stanek, to give a brief description of why we hold non-legislative meetings. This is our third one this year. We announce these ahead of time. And I would ask Mr. Stanek, explain to folks what we're doing here.
Yeah, we do it on a quarterly basis. These are non-legislative meetings because no formal action takes place. Gives the board another opportunity to discuss some things and provide direction to staff to prepare for an upcoming meeting in the coming months to bring it forward formally. And if it is an ordinance or resolution that is the end result, publicly noticed appropriately and whatnot. This just gives us a more informal way to just, review things more in depth and not to do it at a formal public meeting. Decisions are made here. It's more or less just direction to move forward and prepare for an upcoming meeting where formal action would be taken.
Thank you, Mr. Stanek. At this time, number 3 on the agenda is public comment time. The Township Board of Supervisors allocates a period of time during this item for those individuals who would like the opportunity to address the Board of Supervisors on any matter. Each person addressing the Board of Supervisors is asked to limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Would ask you if you have a public comment, Mr. Stanek will call on you. Please come to the podium and give your name and your residence. Mr. Stanek.
Let's start in the front row. Any comments from the front row?
Yeah, just a question, actually. Judy Stewart, Strabane Manor, 1131 Arrowhead Drive. And again, just a question. It says review and discussion concerning comprehensive on-street parking. Is there going to be anything on that ordinance that you guys typed up on the cul-de-sac? That's all. I just had a question. Is that going to be in with that?
Yes, they're going to discuss some of that.
That's okay. That's all I need.
Anyone else in the front row? Okay, come over to this front row.
Hi, and I have one for each of you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marcia Deeb. I live at 6 Fox Drive. I want to thank for the opportunity to speak. I've written my questions down for the supervisors in case I don't get through in my first 3 minutes. First, I would like to request that in the future, we could have more discussion about agenda items. These items only appear on the website. If you are not monitoring them, you do not know about these important issues. I realize that there are many issues that come up in your personal meetings and items get put on the agenda. But as a resident, I have no prior background or knowledge in which to make a determination. For instance, I think it's good to have a discussion between residents and supervisors at these meetings before placing items on the agenda. In the future, could we post on the website information or issues that have come up in the community, or could we have a meeting to discuss and then place on the agenda to vote on? One idea is to maybe have the business manager make the website more interactive so both sides could post prior to the meetings. Also, posting information in the newspaper might reach more of a senior audience, which is usually overlooked. We have promised a newsletter, but so far nothing. There's definitely a great need for better communication between elected officials and the community. So my questions are, what was the primary reason or incident that prompted you to put comprehensive parking, on-street parking regulations on the agenda for this special meeting this morning? Can supervisors explain in detail or show data why this is becoming an issue after many decades of no complaints? What surveys or studies have been done, and how are you going to share this data with the residents? We would like an explanation of why supervisors found an urgent need to have this special meeting in the morning when many residents are working. How will the ordinance be enforced equitably? We will have to hire new people to drive through the township to enforce this ordinance. Why would we put extra work on our already stretched police force? What will the fines be used for? Will our taxes go up as a result of this? How are police going to monitor the streets on a 24-hour basis? Will this be for service vehicles or just private party individuals? What should residents do that do not have a garage or driveway at their home? Several examples would be for the older communities like in Pancake. I drove by a streeter in Pierce and almost everyone was parking on the street, or around the hospital on Wilbert, there were many, many on-street parkings. If a resident parks on the street and they park up on their sidewalks like they do up on Wilbert, how do people in motorized wheelchairs get around? Because they definitely block their access. And do supervisors really want residents to start parking in our front yards? Because I find this very unsightly and I don't think it's good for our image. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for this question.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
Okay.
Anyone else here?
You have another 10 seconds.
Judy Panasic, Green Crescent Drive. Folks, I've been coming to these meetings since 2005, and I've seen a lot happen. And it really bothers me that they're having these inconvenient meetings at 10 in the morning. I was here years ago when they'd have an agenda meeting and then another meeting, but everybody knew about it. It was always on the schedule. They knew what it was about. These meetings discussing things now when the public can't be here to hear it and see it, that's the point of everything, to have open government, is to be able to have things when people can be there. This is an inconvenient time for meeting, and you clearly know that. And you know, this room would be filled with double the people at least if it were held at its regular time. Going to the issue of the parking on the roads, I've lived here for 40 years. This is the first time this has ever been an issue, and that started in February of 2022. And I want to know why. The police officers have said that it's not an issue. The fire chief has not said it's a big issue. And if anybody watched the video, they took just as many turns to get out with or without cars in the cul-de-sacs. It's maybe and not only that, if there's a fire, people are going to get out of the cul-de-sac and move their cars. They're not going to want to be by the fire, and the fire truck doesn't have to turn till the fire's over. So it has not been brought up as an issue. The only group that has an issue with this is the road crew. And if the road crew has an issue, maybe we need to get rid of the road crew. Maybe we need new people in the road department if our road crew can't handle this. They're upset about something that happens once. We don't get that much snow. And even if there's snow all over the ground, sometimes they're just spreading a little salt. And it has been stated more than once that they're the ones upset that they have to move around a couple cars on the road. Now, I understand that sometimes people are stupid and park across from one another. That has happened in my neighborhood. I get it. It is not an ongoing issue. And you guys were supposed to address this in a letter to the residents in February. That has never happened. You keep putting this on and tabling it, then taking it off. If you vote it and get it voted down, then it's off for at least a year. I think it's ridiculous that nobody in this community except the HOA has an issue with this. And that's only in their HOA. They're not saying do it in the township. They're saying we already have this rule on our HOA and you're not enforcing it. This is going to cost us more money, more time. I live in a neighborhood. There was a street chase down my road with the state police and everything. And my car, I always park half on the road. I'm half into my yard. There's plenty of room. Not one cop came and said your car was in the way, and other people on my street park there. So now what happens? People have a party. They've got to call it in. What if every day? My mom's elderly. We don't have a garage. My sister, we have a driveway like this. My sister parks at the top so my mom can easily get to the car. We leave at different times. it would be crazy and impossible. I talked to my neighbors. When it snows, we have to park, they park on the street, same reason. They have a driveway like this. They put one car on the street out of the way. And sometimes the road crew doesn't do our street until 2 in the afternoon. 2 in the afternoon. And then they're putting the snow back into the driveways where everybody's already shoveled. There's been no efficiency with the road crew, and I think that's where this issue needs to start. Thank you.
Second row.
Yes, I'm Benny O'Brien, live on Beach Street. My concern is, not wholly with, cutting out all on-street parking. My concern was, and I've sent information to the township manager before about on-street parking at an intersection that creates safety hazards. My biggest thing is, why do we allow people to park at an intersection, especially on the one that's North Franklin and Michigan? We have Northgate Apartments. They're supposed to provide parking for everyone in their units. They don't. They park on the streets. They park right at the entrance to their parking lot, right across from North Franklin. So if you're coming up Michigan, you have to stop because cars are parked there. You've got an intersection on North Franklin and it has no stop sign, and people shoot right across and into the apartments. So my biggest thing is, if we're going to be looking at what's the right thing to do with parking, you need to take in the safety aspect of what it is. Because if something happens at that intersection, and I've come close to it about a half a dozen times of being hit there, who's liable for it? That was my biggest thing. If we're going to do stuff and look at stuff, we need to look at the total liability of where it is. Because is Northgate liable? Is the township liable? Because we don't have proper signage on the other part of it. So those are just a few of my concerns at that point. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can just start this off with you. Betty Haney, Pierce Avenue. One of my many ties to the township that I'm forced to do.
Thank you. Back row.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carla Eiseminger, and I live on Quarry Road. And I have an issue with people parking on Quarry Road. There have been some new homes built, and so it's more congested than it used to be. We've been there 30 years. And here's a picture of, it's around 350 Quarry Road that these people are parking on the road on a blind knoll where you can't see if you're driving either way, and someone's going to get hit head on. As you can see, we took a picture of a car, and this is every week that they're doing this. And I don't know what can be done about it, but if something isn't done, there's going to be a bad accident. And I myself have called 911 probably 10, 15 times about this. And I've also come to the police station begging them to come out and speak to these people. And I just think something needs to be done because someone's going to get hurt. Thank you.
When you talked to the police chief, what did he say?
He said they'd send a car out and talk to the neighbors, but I don't know if that ever happened. So
Can we keep your picture?
when,
Can we keep your picture?
yeah. Yeah, we have a lot more pictures, but they have driveways and they just have like, I don't know, 10 or 12 people every week at their house for some reason or another. I don't know if it's a meeting, I don't know if it's a business thing, but they're parking on the street on both sides. And something has to be done about that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
David Yetsick, 320 Crabapple Drive.
As the supervisors well know, I've been here to many meetings, and our issue was that if there's going to be a prohibition against parking, it needs to not discriminate against cul-de-sac parking. It needs to be all-inclusive. So I guess I raise a question with the supervisors, whether or not your discussion this morning is going to entail comprehensive all on-street parking. So that's a question I have. I won't repeat what these ladies said because we're in agreement with everything. I'm in agreement with everything they said. So I'll leave it short at that. But again, my main concern was that your action today is going to be one that includes all streets in the township and not just cul-de-sacs. Okay. Another unrelated issue, and it was mentioned by one of the ladies, these meetings at 10 o'clock in the morning appeared to be almost an issue of you wanting to limit the number of residents that can be here. I hope that's not the case, but boy, the appearance sure looks that way. So I'd recommend, as someone else recommended, that we not have these 10 a.m. meetings. Hold them in the evening when more people can attend. That's my recommendation. Thirdly, you all familiar with the Sunshine Act? Everybody is. I'll put this out to Mr. Maple. Do you believe this meeting is in compliance with the Sunshine Act?
Has been advertised,
Yes, please advertise the
24 hours advance.
organization meeting. It was advertised, the agenda was posted, right?
Where was it posted, sir?
Should be on the website.
On the website. And again, somebody mentioned that, elderly people aren't as familiar with website or PC operation, internet operation as the younger people are. So there needs to be a different
But we
way of posting that.
But we advertised the meetings in the Observer Reporter, correct?
And
Yeah.
by the way, too, I have a copy of the Sunshine Act here. It says it must be posted at a location where the meetings are to take place. I didn't see anything posted out here. This is where the meeting took place. So really, you're not in compliance with the Sunshine Act.
Do we post it
Posted in the front of the building.
in the front of the building?
In the front of the building, but we all enter this way.
Understood.
What day was it posted in the newspaper?
Because I didn't see it in the
I didn't
newspaper.
either.
It was published in a notice in the newspaper at the first of the year after the organization meeting where they set the meeting dates.
So
In the
like in
first-
January, this one would have been in there.
It-
Correct, that's the requirement.
With the Sunshine Act, most townships and boroughs do, they post their regular meetings at the beginning of the year. And that happens just that one time in January. So I'm assuming this legislative meeting was posted at the beginning of the year, correct, Brandon?
Yes.
All right. So
Okay,
it's in line.
but again, there was mention of us not knowing what the agenda is going to be. You don't know what the agenda is going to be.
Well, no, but
So there seems to be that there should be a second posting maybe that indicates what the agenda is going to be. And in a meeting like today, what you're going to talk
What
about.
they did last August, they passed Act 65 of 2021, which provides that the agenda has to be posted at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. And this was done 24 hours prior to the meeting, Mr. Standard?
Yes.
So we're in compliance with Act 65 of 2021. And I understand the issue concerning paper versus electronic. Nowadays, I tell people, young people don't read the newspaper, so put everything, online. But I understand the dichotomy. We have one generation dying out, and we have another one that's all electronic.
You still
Despite
should
what it
not,
may
you
look
should
like, I
not
mean, this I
exclude,
think is an aging township. I mean,
you should not exclude people.
yeah. It should be both.
And I think they do both.
No, sir, they do not.
They don't advertise the meetings online,
No, sir, just online only.
but if they advertise this meeting for today, they do it in January, they're compliant with the act.
But not the agenda, sir.
But you're not required to post the agenda in the newspaper. No one really does.
But I don't think your supervisors would like people to show up here without knowing what's on the agenda. They are public servants. They know their community needs to know information.
Judy,
I just wanted to say, maybe the fix for this is that I understand that they're complying by doing it in January. Maybe it needs to be posted in the public newspaper that this is coming up at this time of the year. Like, that seems to be where the problem is that there's no paper, in the newspaper saying that this was gonna happen. But the agenda, they don't have to post until so many hours before. But I
24.
think that would fix it. Like what people are saying is there was nothing in the newspaper saying this was coming up. You had to go online. So that would sort of help the people that don't go online. And also, like I said, it's not like it's that expensive for all the other money this township was. So I think that if the township could post it, even though they don't have to online before the meetings, that would be the fix for this.
Is there anyone else who wants to come speak? Come on up, please.
My name is Deborah Haw. I live on Floral Hill Drive. My concern is the speeding that goes on Floral Hill Drive from Green Crescent till the end of the street. We have some kids that have gotten some really sweet cars in the past year, and our street is relatively flat, and it's just begs to be sped upon. We have a lot of people that like to walk on that street. They walk their dogs. We have people that ride their bikes. Whoever is responsible for cutting the debris that is in an open lot near my home, we appreciate that. I'm not sure who's responsible for that, but we thank you because it gives us a place to go off the street when we're walking if a car comes. But that doesn't solve the issue of the speeders. I've not called, made complaints or anything. I don't want to get anybody into trouble. I'm not sure these people, and I think they're young people, I'm not sure they realize the danger they're creating speeding up and down the road like they do. My grandchildren come and visit. I don't let them go in the front yard because kids are kids and I don't want anybody to get hit. My husband cuts the grass. He swings out into the road to go up the hill so he can finish cutting the grass. If someone's speeding by, they could easily clip him and I wouldn't have a husband anymore. I am willing to do whatever it takes to remedy the situation. If I need to get people to sign petitions, whatever, but it's a real problem. And they're not stopping at the stop sign so that they can gain the good speed. But if you
Excuse
could,
me, Brenda, did you get her name and address?
Yes, Deborah Hall.
yes. So tell me what I can do to help remedy the situation, not just complain about it. But we have a lot of senior citizens that live on that street, and it's really, I'm a senior citizen. Sometimes you just can't hop out of the road as quickly as you'd like to. And, you know, again, I appreciate the fact that these kids have these sweet rides and that they enjoy them, but it's not a safe place to do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a procedural question? There were a lot of questions in the way by members. How are those addressed and how are the answers asked on?
Mr. Stanley,
What's the procedure?
tell your
for that?
procedure.
Yeah, we'll get in contact with them.
Get in contact with the people who raise the questions?
Yes, or I'll talk to the police chief about Floral Drive. If you want to leave me your phone number, we could reach out again.
Ms. Deeb, she raised a lot of questions, so you'll be back at her with the answers individually?
We're to get back to everyone.
Yes,
Through-
I don't
through the
have the
township
answers.
manager.
You don't provide the answers at the meeting. You
No, we
write
don't
back
have,
to
we
the
don't have a
person
question and answer period, but we take your
You go right
comments
back to the person
and we get
asking.
right back to the personal department need to address. We do take care of it. That's what we expect.
Well, I'm not saying you don't, just I
Yeah.
wasn't aware of how you respond.
Well, that's our procedure.
Mr. Stanek, would it be possible for you to post my answers on the website for the individuals here to be able to read?
Yes, I want to take time to think about it.
Sure, absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else have a comment this morning?
I do.
Come on.
Betty Haynes, Pierce Avenue. I have a question. When I came here a couple years ago to a meeting on a Tuesday night, and it was about the grooming business there on Pearson, all the traffic. So I'm thinking, is this my fault? Because I was complaining about all this traffic with this business.
No.
That's causing this no street parking? Okay, that's all.
You're good.
'Cause I'm not against street parking.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. Thank you for all your concerns, all your questions, and you will be, have answers in due time through the township manager. Okay, number 4. Review and discussion of a request by North Strabane Township.
Sorry.
I
I did have another comment.
Okay,
From Mr. Shea. He and his wife had submitted an email yesterday evening.
okay.
Please advise the board of supervisors during the public comment period of our opposition. Parking ban improvements of any type is also stated. That's around the copy of that.
It? Mr. Stanley?
That's all we have.
Okay, thank you. Number 4, review and discuss a request by North Strabane Township Sanitary Authority to provide sanitary source service to the West Penn Plastic Facility along East Bow Street. Mr. Stanley, you're good. How about a description about this?
Sure, we have a request that came in from the North Strabane Township Municipal Authority regarding an ask to have Washington Penn Plastics, which is along Bow Street, tap into their 84 plant, which is across the street, located within a close vicinity of the West Penn Plastics plant. The reason for that request is
Before you go on, explain to the group here, where is this thing located? Where is this plastic plant?
yeah, this is on 136.
By what?
By the spring house.
By the spring house. okay.
Just past the spring.
It's at Mitchell and 136, just past the spring house, headed to the east.
Is it before the Humane Society or after?
After, it's at
Okay, thank you. Same side, huh?
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Stanley.
opposite side.
Thank you.
Because we have no sewer service along 136, I believe the stuff that occurred in the vicinity that occurred in 136, it would be more economically feasible for them to connect to the North Strabane Municipal Authority plant and not necessarily lay pipe or flow sewage into the region. Presented this to the board for direction for the upcoming meeting. I anticipate if the board would favor doing this, there would be an agreement of sorts. One recommendation I would make is that once sanitary sewer service does become available to West Penn Plastics through Legia, we would require them to connect into that facility. Yet the basis for the ask is it's not economically feasible to go ahead and run sewer all the way down East Bow Street to connect.
Is
I
this
would
our-
like to see it on the agenda.
Yes. And where's our responsibility to come into this? What do we have to do?
We would do an agreement to allow them to tap in because they are in essence in the South Strabane Township and in the Legia service area.
What about expense, cost? Cost of it is?
We could ask them to cover the cost for our attorney to review the agreement.
So are they doing the agreement or we drafting the agreement?
I have a draft that you and I need to look at.
And did they draft it, the authority drafted or what?
Yes, yeah. More or less for discussion purposes. I did reach out to Legia, the director of operations. They have got the Legia board and the solicitor has got back to them on any information. So I'm still waiting on to see if there's any comment from the Legia board, but we have yet.
So we have miles to go. We're not anywhere close to this, right?
Well, given the lack of response in the last several months, as we're just waiting on if they have anything to say, if they would like to add anything, just to have a discussion about it. So I'm hoping we hear before the next meeting so we can put this on the agenda.
Well, I support Mr. Burns's recommendation to place on the agenda all information, costs, everything delineated, so we fully understand what the situation is, okay?
I don't want to see the business impeded because Legia is not doing their job. So if they can't figure out how to respond to our business correspondence between now and then, I believe we should move without them.
I suggest what we may want to do is have Mr. Stanek send a letter to Ouija saying that we communicated in the past. If we don't hear from you by August 21st, we will assume that you consent to doing the same.
Good.
Something that.
And just a letter going out to them to their lack of response with our service agreement. Going
Right.
out today, actually.
But specifically on this item, so we can
Send them
move
another.
forward and
And
so they've been put on notice.
And the letter would say basically, we communicated, you have responded regarding this project of North Strabane. If you don't respond back by the 21st or whatever day, that we'll consider that a consent to doing the same, something of that nature.
For a little
the little plant that they're pumping it to, is that actually a storage cleaning station, or does that get pumped all the way to Canonsburg?
It's its own treatment.
It's its own.
Kevin, do you have any other color to add?
No, I think you've covered most of it. It's just not an area that's currently served by Ouija in the South Strabane area. And it would just be very cost ineffective for them to run approximately a mile of pipe just to serve the small amount of businesses they could pick up at this point.
We'll go with the direction we see. We'll move forward to prep this and ask Ouija again for a response to this issue.
Anything else? Mr. Stanley?
None on this side.
Thank you. Number 5, review, discussing concerning comprehensive on-street parking regulations. Mr. Stanley, going to give a brief and update on what has happened so far.
Sure. So the public hearing time has expired. And we have looked at this issue now for several months. And in order to move forward with anything, staff would need direction regarding parking in cul-de-sacs or parking on the street. A lot of those issues have come up all of those issues have come up over the period of this discussion. So that's why I put the word comprehensive on here, because maybe we're not thinking about on-street parking in addition to cul-de-sacs. So this is just for the board to discuss. We did briefly outline a couple other neighbors and what they do. But I think, the concerns, public safety concerns have been expressed with snow plowing operations during the winter. Staff has relayed that, police and fire departments do have the expertise and the necessary equipment to get done what needs to get done. So, this is just open for conversation.
First thing I want to present to my fellow board members is, can we somehow reach out to the community and have some type of assessment or some type of a informed opinion on whether we need to look at something like this in the township? There's a lot of pros and cons. The cul-de-sac thing wasn't something we wanted to move with at the time. But I think if we find a way to get an assessment or reach out to the folks and ask them, where do we go from here? I don't have any problem getting public input. I accept that. If you give me these meetings over years, I accept public input. We can reach out to the people. We're here to represent you, take care of you, listen to what you have to say, do the right thing by it. And I don't like the idea that we only have a small sampling of people here. Maybe all the rest of the people, the quiet majority, is okay with what we're doing. How do we know that? We don't know that. I'm going to recommend to my fellow board members, do whatever you want. I think we need to reach out and ask the folks, how do you feel about this issue? How do you feel about this issue?
Well, with all due respect, Bob, when that survey is finished, I would suggest that you're going to end up with a 50-50, 60-40 split. And then when you take action, you're going to have asked for the input of half the people and then put a stick in their eye. So I'm not sure what that accomplishes. I mean, it sounds nice and real democratic to get everybody's input, but if you're going to pull the trigger at some point in time, that didn't accomplish anything. I would rather suggest that we go back to where we were last January, when I suggested we send a letter to all the residents saying, in the winter months, we got a problem. Would you be so kind as to pull your car off the street so that our road crew can do their job so that your streets can be clean? Thank you very much. And then see what happens. We are solving a problem we don't have. We don't know that we have this problem. If everybody complies and Russ is good, then the streets are clean. We're on down the road. No pun intended. But we're throwing the baby out with the wash water here. I don't know that cul-de-sacs have ever been a problem. I don't know that it's a problem in the winter when they're plowing. I get that. So you ask people to comply. they comply, we're all adults, we move on down the road. But to suddenly ban parking and get the permits and all that jazz and signs, I don't know. Like I said, we're solving a problem that I don't know we have. My comment.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy, you have something to say?
And I also go back to Mrs. Eisner, because I've been told this by the ex-police chief, and one of the reasons why you want an ordinance for cul-de-sacs and on-street parking is for that particular, because there is no signs. They're allowed to park there.
I know.
Guy on Rankin, Mr. Angelo used to do it, park 2 cars out, and you couldn't do anything about it, is what I was told. So if we pass the ordinance for both public streets and cul-de-sacs, I don't think it's honestly gonna change the way you people, they're not gonna ride up there and give tickets. But if there's something like that, where there's a safety issue, they now have, or the other gentleman that was talking about parking by the intersection, you now have teeth that they can go do something. Otherwise, they're not allowed to go do anything, is my understanding. So,
But I'd like to bring something up here also. On our papers we have here, there's local parking restriction. Here's what 4 of our nearby townships do or have, the ordinance they have. In Canton Township, which is one of our neighbors, all township streets at all times, except for 4 listed exceptions where reliable off-street parking does not exist. That's a parking restriction. Chartiers, all township streets at all times, except for 3 listed exemptions where reliable off-street parking does not exist. In other words, no parking except by permit. North Strabane, 143 listed streets are restricted at all times. Peters Township, all township streets from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And I understand that a little bit, but and I know how much snow do we get, what kind of problem we have, but I can understand that. All cul-de-sac dead ends at all times, no parking. Certain streets listed have permanent or weekday restrictions. That's our neighbors. I'm going to turn to Russ. He had the largest concern about the parking procedures in our township. We have no rules right now about it. So Russ, you put together a few issues here to help the folks understand why you would recommend something like that.
See, I've spent some time on the internet, and North Franklin also has no parking. Monahan Township is just like Peters Township. Chartiers Township has no parking. And as Mark said, it was a complaint made the exact same way. There's really nothing you can do without an ordinance. I'm not trying to go after anybody. There's been times where we've had to back out of roads because of people park, and there's nothing we can do. If you have an ordinance, it gives the police the authority to knock on the door and say, you're not on double park, here's the ordinance, and then we can open the street up. It's really needs to be done. We're the only ones who don't have an ordinance.
No, sir, you were in.
Control a little bit. You can get it on the internet, I did.
We asked our fellow communities. Not all of our communities in Washington County have that.
The ones that we named.
Yes, absolutely.
That's minimal for the whole county.
That's minimal for the county.
That's all of our neighbors around us. This has been a problem. This has been a problem. When I was on the road crew, when the other, Mr. Bank passed, we've had to deal with this for many, many years. It just never came out to the public. I was happy with just if you have a snowstorm, 1 inch or more to where you have to plow. If you could use your driveways, and we do have a list. Ashmore, Magnolia, Nevada Pier, Statement Avenue, Sunset Boulevard, Weaver Star. We have a list of people that do not have on-street parking. We put the time in. Just give us time to plow. Use your driveways when we're done. Go back out the street. That's all. Just let us get the roads completely open.
Russ, I'll ask you something. You check with these other townships. What was the basis for the parking restrictions?
safety, plowing. They actually have signs up in Nottingham and Peters for winter maintenance when it snows, use your driveways, because they have the same issues.
You mean they post something?
Yeah, in the big neighborhoods.
That's fine, that's what Bracken recommended.
That's what Bracken just said.
Yeah, but you can't enforce it without an ordinance.
Obviously, they are.
They all have an ordinance. They all
Just
have an ordinance.
specifically for snow.
Yes. Two of them have it specifically for snow. That would be Peter
So
Township.
you were recommending that we just do hours for snow?
I would be fine with that.
But
Yeah.
then what time are you guys gonna plow? Like I said, Green Crescent
When
gets
it
plowed.
snows,
It snows at night and we get plowed at 2 PM the next day.
everybody gets, it takes 4 hours to plow, Judy, 2 hours.
But then are they doing it at night? Because it's snowing at night
It
and no
depends on-
plow goes down our street until 2 PM.
It depends on when it snows.
I just told you, it's snowing at night and it's way beyond 4 hours by the time we get plowed. Our street
I
is not,
just-
and I talked to my neighbor because they were upset about this.
I
and they
disagree
said
with you.
that you can disagree all you want, but you can go pull Green
Hey,
Crescent.
Judy,
I'm
Russ
on,
has the floor.
I monitored my crew. I know where they're at. All streets were done before we got home.
Do you guys have monitors on the trucks?
Judy.
Yeah.
I'm just asking. It was a
No,
question.
be
You let other
quiet.
people ask.
Please be
Bob.
quiet.
Okay,
Go
I
ahead.
forgot there's certain rules for you.
But like I said, it just gives us and the police a little bit of authority to say, please, you have to move your car or we're gonna have to get it towed because your neighbors want the street done. And if my trucks with 10-foot plow on can't get through, the street's not gonna get done. We'll plow 14, 15 hours, we go home for 4, we come back, we clean it up. And on my answer machine, when you come finish our street, when I go look at the street, and it's where everybody was parked. They want us to come back and clean the parking area. So if they parked in their driveway while we were initially out there, they could park in the street, there wouldn't be any snow there. Everyone,
Okay,
this has been going on for 25 years, as long as I've been here. This isn't just new to 2022. It just came out to the public now.
Russ,
Okay,
are you suggesting the ordinance is specific to snow days,
I would be fine with that.
not forever and ever,
No,
just the snow days?
yeah, give us a chance to get your roads open.
I personally think that's a compromise.
I would,
For what it meant.
Mr. Weber,
yes.
why don't we do Bracken's idea for this winter? Send your letter, restrict your parking for the snow. If it's still a problem, then in the spring, we can bring the ordinance back up and then put snow days. And then the police department can then have some teeth into it to get it ready. I mean, it's like a baby step to get into before you make a law. I mean, people don't like laws. They don't like really told what to do. But if they're asked, most people will do it. People are pretty reasonable. It's just a suggestion.
Good suggestion.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, Judy,
Thank you.
what?
Thank you, Bradley. I was just gonna say, that doesn't solve Mrs. Eisenhower's problem. And I think that maybe you need to have the police go out and on roads like Quarry where there are sharp bends, maybe there are places that they could put no parking signs, like no park
You
between.
can't do it without an ordinance.
But then that's
You can't do
different.
it without an
But
ordinance.
Mark, that's a different parking ordinance. That's different from what's saying all no street parking to saying that that's a dangerous area. I'm just saying they're two completely different things. Like an area that's dangerous, I drive all through the county. And there are places where there will be signs like don't park between here and here on a road. And if you have an ordinance where you have areas that are dangerous, that's different than eliminating all on-street parking throughout the township. Am I wrong?
No, you're
No.
It's just like a stop sign. You have an ordinance that says
30
you have to
feet.
stop where there's a stop sign. There are places in Windsor Highlands, for example, where there are not stop signs, when there probably should be. Could you not put a sign up on Quarry Road, have an ordinance, address Mr. Murphy's concern, have an ordinance that says when these signs are visible, you can't park. You can't park in that area where that sign is, and that gives the police some teeth. But again, as Jude said, I think that's a separate issue from what we're dealing with in the.
Okay.
We're passing an ordinance for something like
Okay,
that.
thank you very much. Oh, yeah.
We wouldn't have a problem if they park like 150 feet down the road or vice versa. If they park right on the knoll, I mean, and you can't see. I mean, I don't have a problem if they, park down the road or whatever, because then you can see, get around them. But when you come down knoll, you can't see nothing. And the kids fly up and down the road. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Okay.
Like right on that knoll, you can't see nothing. And I've seen Bracken and Kate walk on that road. I don't know if he's ever seen cars parked there. I mean, it's really dangerous. I mean, we've almost got hit quite a few times. There's a spot in Windsor on Warren. It's the same way. There's a Preston Hill, Russ, you're familiar with that. And we've put a sign there, no parking on this particular area.
There's a lot of places we could put signs up, and then you have people that are gonna say you're discriminating, you're letting them park up and you're not letting me park.
But it's a.
I understand what you're saying.
There's an obvious reason why you're putting that sign there.
We'd have to get.
It's a dangerous situation.
Yeah, we'd have to get all signs have to be approved by the police chief. We'd have to get him out there and say, yes, like this is bad.
I think
They are.
there's no problem with that.
I have no problem with that.
I mean, the police would know best when
Go ahead.
it's dangerous.
Yeah, and get into that with that, like my topic was, of the safety and the parking at the intersections and that. But isn't there state laws that require to be so far away from an intersection for parking and everything?
Yes,
Okay, so if they're out there, I've encountered the South Strabane police at that same intersection and, somebody's backing up, moving, but nothing's been addressed. So if they are, and if we just take the outlook of saying, okay, we're driving through this area, I see this, then that's well within my authority to tag that car, issue a citation or whatever at that point. So that would remedy some of the issues that would create a safety hazard and not just blatantly penalize everybody in the whole township for something. Hold some people accountable for what they do wrong.
I believe you're right. I think it's 30 foot from the stop sign intersection. That is state law. Is that correct?
Hey, Russ, there's rules, the state has that for intersections, stop signs, fire hydrants. They list them for all.
And the police chief passes it.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, we're gonna wrap this up, okay? We take all your comments, all your questions under advisement. I know we will, I know I will. And we'll move forward on this and see what we come up with. So you can have a hearing and if we come up with something and you can voice your opinion again and see how you feel about it.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll come up with a very good one or status quo.
Thank you.
Thank you for your.
Okay,
You're quite
what
welcome.
direction do you want Brandon to go with this?
I want him to take all these comments here. I want Brackett's comments, I want my comments, I want Murphy's comments, I want your comments, I want everything put into this thing and see what I particularly want to hear what the people have said this morning. That's particularly what I would consider if we move forward. Moving forward to whatever, partial restricted parking, whatever, intersection, whatever you're coming up with.
I don't think.
What I've heard is a comprehensive evaluation of each on-street parking, of every street.
Yeah, basically did hear that. Heard from all.
Don't expect it at August 23rd meeting. Don't expect it on August 23rd, but we'll start with that comprehensive evaluation.
Yeah.
You
Thank you.
can always start with my questions first.
Yes.
and then
She has good questions here. Very good questions. Brandon. Very pleased with that.
And I would like to letter be prepared.
Yeah,
That
we'll do
Brandon
that,
brought up and have that put in
I
our
would think October would be a good.
newsletter.
The letter addressed to the public saying, look, during snowstorms, help us out.
Yeah, we didn't do it in this, it was the springtime.
Yeah, we wanted to wait till.
There was one more snow after that, but it was the springtime, it was a seasonal thing. I think if we start in October, we'll send the letter and see what we can do.
Could the letter also imply maybe use some common sense on some of these dangerous areas? Can you work that into it somehow?
I'll put it all in caps.
No, I don't mean.
We're gonna mention your name.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I have at it.
Yeah.
And Dave said,
this is common sense, don't park in what may be a dangerous area.
I think we'll come up with something.
Yeah, or
pretty good.
pay attention at intersections and stop sign. There are laws.
Just a general reminder to the residents.
Okay, everyone, thank you.
Thank
Very,
you.
very well. We're gonna move on, okay? Number 6, review and discuss concerning baseball field usage, that's particularly at the community park. And I'm gonna let Mr. Stanley give a briefing, maybe Mr. Murphy can come forward with some information.
I think Mr. Murphy wanted to talk about how we use our ball fields, who uses our ball fields today. And I threw in also a draft facility agreement. We have a lot of youth organizations that like to use our fields. And I think we need to buttress up how we manage the fields. So,
Yeah, I mean, really, this was, Wausau girls, junior high, and varsity on the community park. But they're not allowed to play games there. So that's a hindrance to them, but if they could play games there, it may be a source of revenue where they would run them out. JV, Wausau has, I believe, out for practices this fall, but they were kind of upset that they couldn't play games there.
Can you clarify why? Who said they couldn't?
You'll have to go back. Mom said somebody somewhere.
But
supervisor
I'll
put a
brief you
rule
on
in
that.
the games.
I'll brief you on that. Some time ago, when I first appeared on the board, first time around, we made rules and regulations for use of community park. And some of those things were, one of the things was, we did it for the younger kids. We didn't have the older kids, put an age limit on it. Good or bad, that's what we did. And we restricted it to practice only for young kids.
All right, well, time out. So you put a rule in there to restrict it
To
certain
practice only,
age.
yes.
Was there some logic behind that?
Yes,
Or, you
at the
know,
time it
for both
was.
kids or,
But that logic might not be holding well today.
well, what is it?
That's the rule that we passed
I
sometime
don't
ago.
understand that. What is the
Bracken,
logic?
take it easy. I'm gonna explain this to you. Just take it easy. Brandon, did you dig out that information about the restrictions?
I don't have that in front. So I think what it comes down to is what does it take to play games versus practice? Right? I think
Yeah,
that's
they're
where it
gonna
comes
have to
down.
have a dragon line, whether they do that or we do that, that's a cost, but other than that, there's no major difference. They're gonna have more people there.
When Trinity girls softball had it, they drug and took care of the field and they played games. That was a game-ready field. That's why it was built. When Trinity baseball started using it, they were cooking food on grills, and there was a few people, I'm not gonna mention names, that complained about it. And that's why it was made a practice field.
Well, Wausau said they want to
you
use a
had-
concession stand, or they're not selling anything, they just want
Yeah,
to be able
I'm
to.
just telling you what,
Yeah, I recall too. They not only grilled, they couldn't sell food down there too. There were rules then. That doesn't mean these rules are.
that's a game-ready field. It's a beautiful field. I agree with Mark, there's games down there. I can't understand why they ever stopped playing games. It is a age limit field. I believe we moved home plate 10 feet and you can go up to Mustang now.
Right.
Shetland, Pinto.
Yeah, Mustang, Pinto,
Less-
Shetland.
Yeah, and rules. So it's a beautiful
Fast
facility.
or slot.
Yeah.
Set up for Trinity High School fast pitch softball.
Well, we do the maintenance on the fields, we cut them, we don't line them, they bring their own bases. Billy Bell Park, we have trouble keeping the infield groomed because it's not being played on. If you look at Billy Bell and you look at Community Park's beautiful because it's being used. You have to get kids on these fields, you have to have them play on it, or the grass just grows up through the infield faster.
So the point of discussion is, Mark, is that can we find a way for Washington High School, Washington Junior High School, or what it is, to
Yeah.
play their softball games?
I see the business manager asking if I could bring it up about them playing their games there, that the park is really bad field and the park won't do anything. So they, possibly were thinking of coming down there, which the junior high girls are. And then Brandon, I don't know, I forget if it was Bob or asking for their schedules, but that's the JV schedule and then from last year's high school schedule.
Because we have Washington Texas girls softball, Trinity girls softball, WYP baseball, with girls softball, Trinity youth baseball, that all, schedule it. And how we handle that is our MO is just to say, here's the contact information. You all need to talk about what you can do to juggle the use of the field amongst yourselves.
Well, the nice thing about the high school is their games are earlier, so they'll be done like by 5.
Okay.
Which won't really interfere with the youth programs.
When you have games, Bush High playing another school, how would the insurance work on that?
They have to cover.
They have to cover it. So when you have people
could
coming
ask,
in,
you could ask for the other schools' insurance or certificate.
Hey, Mr. Maple,
We
it'd
should,
be easy.
we should have,
can you speak to this a little bit? What do we have to get covered in order for us to move forward?
well, whoever's using the field, first of all, they should make sure they have a certificate of insurance, name the township as an additional insured. I'm looking at this agreement, facilities use agreement. I think I may have drafted this a couple of years ago, Brandon.
Discussed that with Russ last year.
Okay, so you can use this as a template and this provide coverage, because basically nowadays people are tickets, if something goes wrong, the first thing they're want to do is sue the township and so forth. So we have to protect ourselves in the situation. So we may want to use this agreement, and just go from there.
So basically, all of that wants to put on the agenda for whatever next, so they can start using it for games and that.
Is this next year or this year?
Well, JV's actually using it. They rented it this fall.
They
Okay,
have
What I was
all
told.
the, they have all the.
okay.
I guess JV plays in the fall horse. plays.
I think we'll move forward and try to work it out.
Yeah, I'll speak to him just to make sure that we understand what they need to use, and when they use it, so we can accommodate. But I'm hearing that there's a reference to revise the policy. to allow-
Yes, we're going to have to
to allow
revise it.
games and practice.
Do we have a written policy?
We do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
But we don't know why we have it. That's good. I got it.
Judy?
I was at those meetings, and I think part of the issue, and there's a way to work this, it's that pavilion is so close to where that is. Those balls come over, hit the pavilion. I've walked that trail where the balls fly over and hit the thing. So by the kids doing it during the weekdays, during the practice, and nobody's really running the pavilion then. So if these games are being played during the week, I'm just saying, if you're gonna allow people to play games there, just make it during the week at a certain time frame. Because if not, there's limited parking there. So when there were games, there would be more people there versus practice when people drop their kids and leave. So part of the issue was the parking, the limited parking. It was the balls flying over and hitting there because of the way the backstop is right on the trail goes behind it, and also hitting that pavilion, and if the pavilion's being rented. So maybe have something about, let's say somebody was running the pavilion during the week, that it couldn't be done during that, or they couldn't rent the pavilion out then because that would interfere, or just allow it during the weekdays and not on weekends when the park is being used more.
You know what, Judy, I recall that was one of the issues. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I mean, that would be probably, I would think, most of the reason. And it was just poorly designed where it's at. If you go to most ball fields and parks, the ball fields are not right next to the pavilion like that, or the backstop isn't, those balls fly over and hit cars. If you go there, if people are practicing in the ball field, they park their cars at the other end of the parking lot. Nobody parks there because the balls fly over and hit the car. So it's just where that backstop is part of the problem. And it's the limited parking and the pavilion rental. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying those would be the issues I think that would be of concern. That sound like you could easily work around it by just limiting when the games are. And if they're what Mark's saying, it wouldn't interfere with really anything.
Okay, thank you. Brandon, let's move forward with the ultimate goal is we could have games down there. Okay. What, now remember, now we've got to change what your rules are.
Right.
We've got to, there's someplace. Okay,
Brandon, our boys all play hockey, and many teams played it with a limited number of pieces of ice that are in this area. Wouldn't this be very similar to that? I mean, couldn't we, again, we were restricted as to when our team could be there. You know, there was a schedule, you had certificates of insurance. Russ, you were at the Washington Park for many, many years. I mean, that worked well with teams playing there, so. I think this is something could easily be worked out. So. The flying baseballs. If you ever been to a Wild Things game, you know, and the ball goes over, there's another customer for XYZ Glass Company. Maybe, here we go, signs again. Maybe some signs up in that area there that says, you know, park at your own risk.
They're already
Are
out
they
there.
there? Great idea.
Yeah, they're already out. If you go to North Strabane, you have a playground up top, right on the first base side. You try to put as much into a park with the space you have, and it works. Yeah, you get foul balls now. They have a pavilion right behind home plate, where they start with limited space. You put stuff in, try to get kids out of the house, and give them something to do. I think the games are a good thing.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Randy know what to do, move forward and take a look at that. Okay, number 7.
Well, before.
Oh, you got something?
Just, I want to jump way back because I totally forgot to bring it up. When we were on the parking streets and cul-de-sacs. So I talked to Brandon about it. This is just Mark's thought. I'll run through a few things, and I know we follow, what's up, Brandon, you said Saldo or whatever?
Subdivision vote.
Yeah. So, and they give you recommendations. So I think, and Brandon said, we as the township could do this. If a developer comes in the future, we make them do wider streets.
Yeah.
Whatever the 22 foot or 20 foot is, they do 28 foot. Cul-de-sacs aren't 60 foot. Go to the end of Windsor Highlands where they go all the, I think it's 100 feet. You could turn a tractor trailer truck around.
Exactly. But we live in one of those, Mark, that you're referring to.
Yeah,
It
so,
overlooks David School Road.
yeah.
And we turn some big vehicles around. Garbage trucks turn around in there. And we watch the fire truck, the ladder truck turn around in there, so.
Well, I'm just going down for the future. We need to go to the developers and throw those in. The streets are wider, the cul-de-sacs are wider. The other thing, I know the one new one's going, sidewalks on both sides of the development. Street trees, curbs with the sidewalk where you put the street trees. Lighting, the landscaping around the houses. I feel like to take a look at. And I don't know if that's something that we actually have to like vote in a public meeting, talk about.
It's in the South, all those requirements, so when you
Well,
see Burke Manor.
they are, but they're like, the cul-de-sac's 60 feet.
That's
I
minimum.
want it 180 feet.
Yeah.
I
this-
want to supersede what the South, can the township, can we as a township say, we're not gonna follow whatever those rules are? I
No,
want my
we would
streets
amend it.
bigger,
Yeah.
I want bigger cul-de-sacs, wider streets, sidewalks on both sides, street trees, lighting, that's all for future, so that in 100 years, maybe they won't have this problem. I don't know. Probably all be flying cars.
They're based off the minimum requirements from.
They're the
municipal
minimum. I want to
Yeah.
go above and beyond.
So if they go 60 and 20, it doesn't mean that we can't say, make them larger.
Sorry, Rob.
That's all
I
right.
want to bring that up.
Is there a desire to do a comprehensive analysis of the South?
On those particular items for me, I mean, yeah, I guess I've never seen the salvo, so I don't even know what it is. I really want to read it.
Yeah, it's lengthy.
Yeah, certain things I would
The
definitely.
thing is, when we did what we did conditional use for that, Burke Manor and Meadow, we covered those things.
Yeah.
They're all covered.
You'll see the Southern take shape.
But I understand where he's coming from. Like, a lot
Yeah,
of
but it's
these
still
things.
gonna be a little 60-foot cul-de-sac.
But I know like the
It's not
Strabane
gonna be a
Manor,
big wide- Streets aren't gonna see.
right, well, Strabane Manor years ago, they were supposed to be a certain width, like 26 foot. And they were granted a variance and they're down to 22 now or something like that. So, yeah, so that's a good point. Good point. But we cover it pretty good in these class two development anyways.
Right.
It's okay.
We didn't have request for modification, there was only a request from Burke to allow a longer road that had a cul-de-sac.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mark. Okay, number 7, Fire Chief Kramer presentation of your 100-day report regarding the fire department. Have you been here 100 days already? Okay, well, come on there, Fire Chief, let's have your presentation. And by the way, before you begin, I've read the report, Jordan, real well. It's a nice report, a very good report, and I like nice decorative and so forth. But I don't know how you want to handle this. It's a lengthy one.
Yes.
We want you to cover it, but
Yeah, so I've got highlights on here. It's still probably 70 slides to get through all of it. However, the most detailed was the
well, do your best. You know where I'm coming from.
And just so, we will hear a report on personnel towards the end of this, but we'll have to adjourn into executive session to talk about that. So that's when the.
Brandon, will you be posting this on the website?
Question.
I think we can. We'll have
I
to
think
just,
you should.
I think you should.
we'll have to take out some of the.
Yeah, sure,
Executive
absolutely.
session.
The pertinent parts.
Yeah, just,
Thank you.
just redact the personnel specific stuff and make it available.
Thank you, Brandon.
Okay, Jordan, go ahead.
So first 100 days ended about 3 weeks ago or so. And I've been working to compile some of my thoughts together about what I've seen since I've been able to start here, what we've been able to do so far, and what we need moving forward to provide the level of service that we should be to South Strabane residents. First of all, I just wanted to thank everybody and appreciate the support that I've received so far from the supervisors, township staff, the volunteer fire department, board of directors have been very supportive, as have the volunteer firefighters and the career firefighters. So we've made a lot of progress in just over 3 months, and we've been working on a lot of things together, which I'm sure many residents know that there's been tension with that in the past. Dealing with combination fire systems with career and volunteer firefighters working within the same environment can be difficult, and we're working on fixing that. All right, so objectives of this was basically to get a pulse of the organization of where we were at, to learn the history and processes that with Township Manager Stanek, former Chief Reese, our firefighters, volunteer board of directors, et cetera. To look at the external relationships with both our neighboring fire departments as well as the county Department of Public Safety. To meet with our volunteer board of directors that run and guide the volunteer component of the fire departments. And to review our internal processes from SOGs, recruitment and retention, the collective bargaining agreement that would be the case on the career firefighter side. And then review of the previous studies that have occurred, one from Jerry Ozog and another one regarding regionalization within our fire service in this area. So the next 30 slides or so are essentially all my observations that I've made over this time period. So my goal has been to try to obviously be engaged, but to sit back a little bit and kind of see where we are and observe. A number of things have popped up that I've had to act on. And we've made some changes, which so far have been pretty positive and very well received by our firefighters. So culture and morale. I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to walk into, but I was very pleased to walk into an environment where people were ready for change. It didn't matter whether it was the career side, the volunteer side, they were ready for something different. They wanted to see the departments succeed and move forward. And they also wanted to learn that there were sustainable solutions. There's no hiding the fact that the volunteer fire service in Pennsylvania has taken a significant hit over the past 30 or 40 years, with numbers of volunteer firefighters down 70 to 80%. It's difficult to keep them around. And with communities like South Strabane and the amount of risk and call volume that we have to implement career fire staff to work with volunteers in order to be able to adequately handle the call volume that we receive. So again, we had a lot of people that were eager for change, in just a sense of leadership. Many of the present day issues that have occurred, especially ones over the past 3 to 4 years, were rooted in past history. And I'm talking about history that goes back to the year 2000 and 1995, when there were two separate fire departments that served South Strabane. Many of those emotions, the dislikes, et cetera, continued all the way to current day. And I saw that reemerging over and over in many of the issues that the department was facing. We lacked an identity. So there was kind of the volunteer fire departments, the career firefighters, and no holistic joint identity of who we were and what we're doing. So one of my big goals was to try to develop some type of joint identity together so that we could move forward together. To me, that is huge for us to be able to come behind one organization, one mission, and be able to work together. So I tasked one of our firefighters that works full-time for South Strabane with developing a new identity, one that both serves our past of what we were and sets us up to move forward in the right way. Just a summary of what happened. So Action Station, like I mentioned, I tasked firefighter Bolin with a new patch and logo design. I'm asking for the Board of Supervisors some funding to be able to accommodate those changes. So uniforms for our people, logos on apparatus. These are also going to come back and really help our culture and morale within the organization. And future actions of the review of our mission statement, vision, and values. So our brand development. All right, this goes through the process that we follow to go through our logo design. And this was the option that we had come up with. So I'll describe it in the following pages, but this is one of the main elements. So we brought three things together. Diverging diamonds that are very unique to South Strabane Township. So firefighter Bolin put this on, was trying to find something in our township that was unique and specific to our organization that we could use. And he was able to come up with the divergent diamonds, because they are very unique to South Strabane. But it goes on to signify a lot more. In conjunction with that, we use the Maltese cross, which is very well known as the fire service symbol. If you see that from 50 feet away, you know exactly that it's associated with fire. And then 44, which is our county station identifier.
Jordan,
Sure.
isn't there 37 and 44, and how did you flip a coin, or?
So it's been 44 since 2005.
Since Pancake closed, or?
Correct. So they did that merger in 05. I'm not sure how that discussion took place. 44 is our county identifier all the way across. So that's what our police units are as well. So that's probably why.
Okay.
And you'll see that we included some of that information in the logo too. But we're in the midst of one of the biggest changes the department's ever gone through right now, especially since 2005, which is when 37 and 44, the two independent fire companies merged. So again, what we came up with was this combination of the diverging diamonds, a Maltese cross, and Station 44. I really wanted to try to signify the history of the departments. And that's why at the bottom of the logo, you'll see 1956, 1960, and 2005. Those are the years that Station 37 and Station 44 were created. And then 2005 when they merged together. It also signifies the fact that the divergent diamonds coming together, signifies the fact that they came together to best serve the township. And it sets us up for the future of the volunteer career fire departments coming together to work together. Some examples of how the patch is deployed essentially. This is one of the logos that will go on the t-shirts. And it just shows basically what our uniforms look like. Here we have an example of a recruitment poster. So we've talked about the dwindling number of volunteer firefighters. That's something that I've had the opportunity to work on a large scale nationally, but something that we're really going to focus here on in South Strabane. one of my important goals is to ensure that we have a sustainable volunteer fire force. And part of that is trying to recruit our next group of volunteer firefighters. So we made a mock drawing of one of the recruitment ads just to be able to show the department and the volunteers what it would look like. Copy of what it would look like on our fire station and on a fire squad. We presented this to the volunteer fire company at their most recent Wednesday night meeting, and they voted unanimously to accept this and to move forward with that one logo, one patch that we all will wear. As an example, the patch I wear on my shoulder right now is different than what our volunteer fire department in the same community wears. So we will be switching everyone's to wear the same uniforms to do the same things together. All right, communication just across the board was nearly non-existent. There were no methods to get a message out to the masses. There may have been ways to communicate it to the career staff or a few career firefighters, or from the volunteer side to communicate it to a few of the volunteer firefighters. But it was clear that, again, so many of those issues were born out of just a lack of valid communication. So without that communication and that line of information coming to them, to everybody, it allowed rumors to start. People fill in the blanks, these things grow and grow. And it got to the point where it started to negatively affect the fire department as a whole substantially. False information in the fire service is really, it spreads like fire. All right. Just the type of environment that we are, it spreads quickly. And it's something that has to be squashed. And the best way to do that is just to communicate what's actually happening. So I put a lot of time into trying to make sure that we are communicating appropriately. Anytime we have a volunteer meeting, for example, I try to meet with our duty crew the next day to inform them what's been going on. But so far, we've simple things. Created a combined email list that I'm able to send department updates out to everybody so that they feel included and they know what's going on. We've increased our use of Active 911, which is a cell phone application. It's how we receive our fire calls. It is also has the ability for me to let people know about trainings and scenarios where we might need additional staffing. We obtained township email addresses for the captains. I held a mandatory staff meeting for our career firefighters. We established a master department calendar. We're issuing a new monthly report to the supervisors. And I've done my best to increase communication with the township manager, which is, ended up with some increased communication with the supervisors as well. One of the things I'm asking for is funding for the implementation of first arriving dashboards in our stations. And if we look at this page, it kind of shows what they look like. So these are television monitors that go in the garage bays. And when you walk into the station, if you're a volunteer that hasn't been there for 4 days because you've been working, within 2 minutes, you know all of the most recent happenings of the department. If roads are shut down, if we have fire apparatus out of service, if we have new members that we're trying to welcome in, it's going to give you a snapshot of where things are at. It is the same board that would be in both stations in my office as well, so that we all know what's going on immediately. Again, to try to remove some of this miscommunication, but also to make sure that everyone is feeling included. In future actions, we're going to create some more township email addresses for our other firefighters and develop a single document hub for all of our members, career and volunteer, to be able to find information and forms. So when we look at the volunteer and career relations, this has been a hot topic item. Here across the Commonwealth and country and combination systems, but specifically in South Strabane, there have historically been tensions between volunteer and career firefighters. Again, it's something that I take a great interest in and trying to improve. And the feedback I've received from our firefighters is that it has improved drastically. We still have a lot more work to do though. A lot of the negative emotions observed came from career and volunteer firefighters. But again, tension got worse due to poor communication, a lack of expectations being communicated to everyone, even just the expectation that you treat, if you're a career firefighter, you treat a volunteer firefighter with respect and vice versa. And then actually holding people accountable to that statement. We're all there for the same thing, or hopefully we are all there for the same thing. It doesn't matter whether somebody's getting a paycheck for it or not. So when we reel things back and start to focus on what we're there for, which is trying to help others, we were able to find common ground to move forward normally. So action taken. I've been working to verbalize expectations regarding these interactions. Increased perspective, specifically amongst career staff, of why people volunteer, why they want to be there to help. They're not there to try to take somebody's job. They are simply there to try to make something better, and we're appreciative of that. The volunteer department also does a significant amount of fundraising. And with that money, they are able to purchase things that may not fit in the township budget that go on to both benefit our firefighters and benefit our township residents. We have a couple people that have taken the IAFC's Building Collaborative Teams class, which is a national course that's funded through SAFER funding, a federal grant that is all about building relationships between career and volunteer firefighters. And then we've opened up weekly training to career firefighters. So previously, our department trains every Wednesday night. Only the volunteers and then the career staff that were on duty were allowed to come to that training. That is one of the most significant times that we have the opportunity to work together before a call occurs so that we can ensure that we're providing the best service when a call actually happens. And that's been huge to trying to build relationships and just to get people together. Future actions, continuing to hold people accountable, continuing to join trainings, the inclusion of career firefighters and family and social functions. And then I would like to look at hosting this class I mentioned. The volunteers for the past 8 months have been ensuring that all of the career firefighters are invited to functions, which again is a great thing to see and nice to watch some collaboration and some camaraderie happen. All right, so looking at our systems and standards, again, I was pretty impressed at the what I walked into as far as the willingness of everybody to come together and work on some things to move forward. Where I had disappointments and concerns was when I started to dig down into our systems, standards that we're trying to meet, and how our operations were being delivered.
Chief, are you at the point where you need to close or?
Yeah, so give me 1 second.
Well, I don't want to rush you.
All right, so we do call volume and then risk analysis or risk profile. One of the things I looked at as well was our call volume. So from 2021 into 2022, the increase is projected at approximately 33%, which is substantial. Part of that reason is probably from people recovering from the pandemic and starting to go out again. Our call volume was on a trajectory where it was increasing. We hit 2020 and it obviously came down, and now we're essentially getting to where it would have been had that trajectory continued. We're not yet responding to all medical emergency call types that we should be, but that's something that is planned in the coming months. I would assume that this call volume is going to continue to increase between the development and the increased traffic to South Strabane for our retail hubs. And something that's interesting when you look at our departments as opposed to some neighbors, just some other departments in the area, many of our calls are ones that require critical interventions. So when you look at the call volumes of other areas, oftentimes you'll see what I would refer to as fluff of fire alarm activations, non-priority medical calls, incidents that don't necessarily need a fire response immediately. And we don't really see that here. Our call volume is based on legitimate incidents that need fire department intervention as soon as possible. And then the other thing I looked at was risk potential. So South Strabane Township, with all of the industry, all of the areas that it kind of brings together, is substantial when you look at the risk that could occur here, or the disasters, emergencies that could occur. Between destination retail hub, our healthcare facilities, the industrial manufacturing, oil and gas, educational, agriculture, the hotel industry, and then the roadways that we cover with 16 plus miles of interstate, our busy local roads, results in a pretty significant rate of vehicle accidents. Last month alone, I think about 35% of our calls were vehicle accidents, which is substantial. And then we obviously had a number of multifamily residential type dwellings. These are high risk. The ones in our community were built during a time where many fire and life safety requirements were not in place. So they don't have adequate fire detection. They don't have fire suppression. So this brings a lot more of a risk for us, as we saw with Thomas Campbell last year. And we'll discuss it further eventually, but there are deficiencies with our ladder truck, for example, that makes it difficult for us to be able to reach these types of buildings. So we've started a preliminary review of the risks within the township. We're looking for a need of some type of GIS software and training. And in the future, we'll perform a comprehensive year-long community risk assessment. That's a team effort that occurs normally with members of the community as well. And it includes emergency management and a community risk reduction team. We concluded there for the public portion.
Folks, we're gonna enter into executive session now. Appreciate you all coming. Thank you.